It's 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. The Office of the Public Protector, very much in sharp focus. Its Topical starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, and those watching around the world. My name is Blain Herman, and this is It's Topical, our digital audience with us tonight. It's good to see them, good to have their perspective on the program. Looking forward to their questions for our guests in a short while. Khaas, endorsed by the National Assembly, which means she's a step closer to officially becoming the next public protector. Remember, the president still needs to sign it off. The president, on the recommendation of the National Assembly, must appoint the public protector. So that's the person, right? What about the office and the mandate of that office? That mandate should determine its reason for existence, right? How does the union of the office and the person occupying the top seat in that office further strengthens democracy? The Public Protector is an independent institution in terms of Section 181 of the Constitution, and the Constitution grants the Public Protector autonomy, important word, to investigate improper government conduct and maladministration. So, in a nutshell, it investigates, it reports, and it remedies, right? And this office must be accessible to all persons and communities. That's key as well, which leads us to the question of the week. And we're asking you, in your opinion, do you think the Office of the Public Protector sufficiently represents you? Sufficiently, underline that. Effectively, do you have trust? Let's walk and talk. Let us know at It's Topical SABC. The office is meant to exercise oversight over governmental power. Question, does it do that effectively? It has autonomy, as I mentioned, to investigate improper government conduct. Does it operate in that way? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Perspective coming up. Right, let's get you context. And as always, we're going to turn to the magic wall, what we know and why it matters. The Public Protector of South Africa, it's a Chapter 9 institution, right? State institution supporting constitutional democracy. It's independent and subject to only the Constitution and the law. And they must be impartial and must exercise their powers and perform their functions without fear, favor, or prejudice. No person or organ of state may interfere with the functioning of such institution. Its accountability to the National Assembly, important. Let's learn more in terms of this office. But what is the Public Protector? Previously known as the Ombudsman, appointed and dismissed by Parliament, also receives complaints against government and officials. Anyone can lodge a complaint. This is important. And not many people know that anyone can lodge a complaint. Investigates, mediates, conciliates, and negotiates, recommends corrective action, issues reports. So, with regards to the office and the do's and don'ts, what can they do? Have a look at what they can do, what they can investigate. The abuse of power, unfair and improper conduct, undue delays, maladministration, public money, improper enrichment. This is what they can't do, right? Cannot investigate court decisions and sentences, private individuals, private companies, and non-governmental professionals. So important to know that. It sets the stage for the discussions that's going to come up. The various public protectors that we have had over the years, Selby Bakwa, from 1995 to 2002, Lawrence Mashwana, we had Tuli Madonsela, of late Busisiwe Mqwebane. Khaas is acting. You heard what the National Assembly endorsing her in terms of becoming the next public protector. We shall see what happens in the next couple of weeks or so. All right, some of the notable reports that you might have heard about in terms of the public protector, the arms deal, Nkandla, South Africa Reserve Bank, it goes on. the latest of which was in the public domain, Phala Phala. How does that report now affect the incoming or the one that has been endorsed, Koleka Kaleka, by the National Assembly? Remember, still needs to be signed off. What sort of impact does that have on her appointment? We will discuss. Context important, as always. All right, I want to get your take now. Regular word on the street feature, where we source various viewpoints from Johannesburg locals seeking diverse insights and perspectives on this topic, also around the country as well. But here's your thoughts on this matter. Take a look.
Public need to be protected, and as a public protector, it should be a person who is impartial, act impartially as and when they are doing their investigations, regardless of the position of the person they are investigating or the institution they are investigating. Should be a person with integrity, with respect to the public as well.
I think loyalty and trustworthiness and honorable, like when I think about Tuli Madonsela, that's her. So I think that's what we need, and especially like how our country is now, we need someone that can be respectable, irrespective of the race.
I think a very strong backbone, and who can withstand pressure from all sides, because look, once you are a public protector, remember, you may be liked by a few and hated by the majority. So you must be somebody with a very strong character and a strong backbone, and be able to can withstand the pressure that comes your way.
If public protectors are appointed, they must be aligned and be loyal to the constitution of the country, regardless of a race or gender, but treating South Africans equally, but also understanding the importance of the office, that he's not only protecting the politicians, but the ones who put the others into power. So he also needs to be very loyal and to be honest in order to serve in the office.
I think at the moment it's important, based on what is happening in our country, that we need to have somebody who is fair, partial and independent in whatever decision that we made. In the past years, we've realized that to appoint somebody being politically motivated is not good for the entire nation. It might benefit the party, but not the whole society.
All right, we really appreciate your views on this matter. Let's get straight to it. Lots to discuss, time limited. I want to use tonight's show as a tool of explaining to the viewer, getting a better understanding in terms of Chapter 9 institutions like the Public Protector's Office. And to help me do that, Mpumelelo Zikalala is a legal analyst, joins me now live, as well as Tebogo Khaas from Interest SA Chairperson there. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Obviously, our digital audience with us tonight, going to get their comments for you in a short while. Mpumelelo, to you first. And I want to talk about the traditional separations of power. When we talk about the executive, the legislature, as well as the judiciary, regarded as branches of government, right? The Public Protector's Office is not regarded as a branch of office, a branch of government. It's important. Why?
It's important in terms of the office independence, because it mustn't fall on any of those two parties. Then you look back and say, who's going to guard the ones who are not doing their job, and who's going to protect us as members of the public? So think of the Office of the Public Protector of being our own lawyers, members of the public that you can run to without going to court and paying exorbitant fees. So if something within the Echigo municipality is not done correctly, instead of going to court and spending lots of money, I can simply go to the Public Protector, and the Public Protector will be able to investigate on my behalf. Now, the results of those are going to be twofold. The first one is that I'm going to be given reprieve in what order I should have received in the first place, as per the recommendation in what the Constitution prescribes. But most importantly, which what has been missing lately is the developmental side of it, in terms of saying, how do we develop the law and the service delivery processes that there is? Are there any impediments with the current legislation that we have? And that's where we see a bit of muddy waters in terms of what the Public Protector can prescribe and what can't be prescribed. And that is what has been within the political frame, most of what political parties have been doing, either to overlook the real problems that you are now facing, or to pass on personal attacks which are directed to the Office of the Public Protector.
Right. In terms of the powers of investigation, can the Public Protector initiate his or her own investigations?
It can be done. However, you do need someone who's going to sort of sound the alarm, who's going to say this is something which is going wrong within this particular sphere. And then in terms of...
And that person can be anyone in the public, right? Anybody.
Anyone. It does not even have to be a South African citizen. Any person who's going to send even an anonymous email to the Office of the Public Protector and say, please look into this particular matter, the investigation can then start. What seems to be the problem, though, is that you can't simply go on insinuations and say to people, go and account. So one would need an affidavit of some sort to say, here's a credible complaint that has reached my office. I'm going to investigate further, even if there isn't such, but I'll try by all means to make sure that I'm able to provide this information and make sure that I report back to the person that has sent me to say, is there something going wrong or is everything going according to the law?
Tebogo Khaas, how would you describe the image currently of the Office of the Public Protector? Tebogo, are you with us? If you can just unmute.
Yes, certainly. Sorry about that.
Go on.
Yes, you were asking me what is the status of the reputation of the Public Protector's Office. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah, look, there's no gainsaying to say that the reputation of the office itself has been solid, and it would be, stretching it to say that the previous occupier of the office, that is Advocate Mpumelelo, has really done very little to try and improve the stature of that office as she had inherited it from her predecessor, Advocate Thuli Madonsela. And I wrote a piece in 2017. At the time, I had expressed my misgivings about her conduct up to that point, because we had given her some time to try and prove herself to make sure that she can deliver. And at the time, I opined, and I think over time I've been vindicated. I think that article has aged very well. I opined that no one has done a disservice to the Office of the Public Protector than Advocate Mpumelelo had. And indeed, we've proven by the outcome of what happened in court. So
but if Advocate Zikalala gets the job, the president obviously needs to sign it off. She has also faced criticism as acting public protector regarding the Phala Phala report. Carrying that into the top job, what impact do you think it's going to have on the office?
Yeah, I worry, and I'm glad you're asking that question, because, Blain, I was worried about the whole appointment process itself. In fact, I was very much disappointed by Advocate Glenys Breitenbach's conduct in that office. And when I heard you comment about the conduct of the Public Protector, I said, but what about the conduct of those who appoint the Public Protector? Because she really didn't acquit themselves very well. They didn't really acquit themselves, including those who walked out. But her comments itself already sully the office, that is the office of the, forget about the incumbent, that she could impugn on her character and assume that she's been in that office because of slipping away into that. That is the lowest you could ever go. And I thought nobody's capable of doing that, especially another woman saying that about a woman. Before she even assumed the pen hasn't even dried. In fact, the pen hasn't been signed by the president to appoint her. And already now we're looking at in a very poisoned manner because of what the legislators themselves have impugned. So it is going to be difficult for anybody to be very much fair, to be fair on her. We need to be fair. We need to give her that space. She must be judged on her own accord on how she conducts herself once she's in office, not what happened in the past. If you're going to try and open my history, you'll find things that are unpleasant. Right. Or you might find conduct that you might have comment about, rightly or wrongly. And if you want to use that for people to judge me before I even assume that, because she qualifies. Everybody agrees that she ticks all the boxes, but for some political reason, because of what everybody reads of Phala, then they believe that, no, she's a bad person because she's ruled in favor of the person. You know, one thing that we like about the constitution, constitutional order, is that it affords everyone the right to take any matter on review if you don't agree with. So if they found that the report that she issued was not of the kind of standing or stature that it ought to be considered, then everybody, we've got the courts who will readily adjudicate on the merit of any such. But nobody has advanced any reason why, legally speaking. I'm not a lawyer, but legally speaking, to say she failed on this and the other point.
Being politically neutral in Mpumelelo is important. And, you know, the aphorism that justice must be not only be done, but it must also be seen to be done. When translated in terms of, when we talk about the public protector, is the office transparent enough in order to evoke trust from the public, the people that he or she would serve?
I think let's break it down on a number of levels. Number of legislation and what the office would use to do investigations, I think it is. If you want to check the rules on how investigations are done, there are regulations that are there. There's the Public Protectors Act, even the Constitution will give you direction. In terms of the open door policy, if anyone has a complaint, they can send an email to the Office of the Public Director, and then it can be investigated. What seems, though, to have been something that needs to be developed over some time is that when recommendations are being done or when reports are being done, I think there's a bit of time that needs to be spent on the methodology which was followed. Now, you do that not because you want to show the type of in-house tools that you have utilized, but you want to show the independence, non-biasness, and the acceptance of proper investigation that you have done. So to us as members of the public, and even to the politicians themselves, it seems as if it matters not the final conclusion of what the investigation is about, but it matters a lot to them as to what did you investigate and how and who did you investigate, who did you talk to and who did you not talk to. And when the matter is taken to court, it's only then that these type of matters are then ventilated, which seem to be another problem that you seem to find with other public protectors. And also to insinuate that you then want to have superhuman public protectors that do not commit mistakes. That's something which cannot be done. And placing that type of weight on top of them is going to render the Office of the Public Protector as something which is not going to be effective enough if we continue to apply that sort of pressure.
Important point, effectiveness and trust. Trust is very important as well, Tebogo Khaas. Perception is also key in this regard, isn't it? If there's a perception that you are biased, then it creates mistrust. And if there's mistrust from the public side, then, you know, justified or not, it just makes the public protectors work that much harder.
Absolutely, and we sort of must be careful of self-fulfilling prophecies where we already judging somebody to be untrustworthy before they even do that. I've got the benefit of having interacted. I still interact with the Office of the Public Protector in the work that I do, and for as long as I've been in this office, I'm treated with professionals who are eager to do their work. Yes, the morale may have been low at some point, but you've got professionals who want to do work and who are overwhelmed with the number of inquiries or assignments that they have to look into. And the minute we start impugning their character and eroding the trust that the public has in that office, the more disenchanted they may very well be, and that affects their performance or would affect their performance. So it is important that we as a public, as members of the legislature, as members of other spheres of government, treat the office with a kind of respect and accord it to it by the Constitution, because it's not about the individual within the office themselves. It is the office itself that we need to accord. Because if you show me anybody on this panel today who has never had any political bias or political affiliation, or let me stop on political bias, you'll never find anybody suitable to occupy that office, because all of us have spent time politicking in the trenches and all these other things. So you are basically saying nobody who's been politically active must apply or be considered for the position of public protector, in which case I will find nobody my age and around my generation to be able to occupy that office. So we must be careful that because she once was a member of the Youth League, therefore it means she's carrying favor with the powers that be to be appointed, which is very wrong.
Yeah, I get your point, 100%. Given leadership is important, but I think in terms of the office, a Chapter 9 institution like the Public Protector, it must be looked at holistically in terms of what it offers as a whole. Let's go to our digital audience. Kustas has his hand up. Let's hear from you, Kustas.
Yes, good evening, Blain, and good evening to the panel. Now, this is a very wonderful conversation. I just looked at the report. Most of the work that is done by the public protector is not in the public eye. And I think that only the few cases that come to the public eye have truly eroded the confidence in that office under Mkhwebane. However, as the new public protector, who we hope is going to come true, let me agree with Tebogo Khaas to say, look, let's give her the opportunity. What was said in Parliament last week was very disappointing. However, I just think that that office needs a lot of work in terms of trying to bring back the confidence of the public to itself. Also, I think that there's a gap in that office. The budget is too small, Blain. It's just not enough. But at the same time, they need to strengthen the quality assurance of that office. When you come to the court of law, you gotta have to follow that process to the T. And this is a gap under Mkhwebane that we have seen, that the quality assurance department was really failing dismally to do its job. So the budget of that office must be increased, but she must also be given just an opportunity. Let's not try to just say she's bad already based on one report. No one has taken it to court just yet. I was one who was disappointed with it, but no one has taken it to court yet. So if it has not been taken to court, it means then it stands. So I just think that, let's be fair, the budget must be increased. The AG, for instance, now if you do not implement these recommendations, you can be prosecuted. Here, you can't be prosecuted. She has to give it to the SAPS or to the Hawks, and it just ends there. I think that she must also be given the powers to say, if you do not implement the report in 90 days, you can be taken to court for it in the same manner like the AG. So there's a lot that can be done to improve this office, and I'm looking forward to see how she's going to conduct herself. She has to be capacitated. She needs the support, but at the same time, she needs to strengthen her office.
Mpumelelo, just picking up where Kustas left off in terms of, the check on the powers of government and the powers that the public protector has. Do you think it's enough and extensive enough in order to increase accountability and responsibility?
No, not at all. I think we even find our courts playing on the semantics of saying that you can't recommend or dictate to certain individuals or certain entities as to what you can and cannot do. So at the end of the day, if there's something untoward that has taken place, the only thing I can do to the SAPS is to say to them, here, here's the piece of information that I found. In order to go in the correct side of the semantics, I can't even say, go and investigate and come back to me, because that is going to be taken as if I'm now instructing them to do something. And if they want to challenge on that basis, they'll then come back and say, great public protector, you don't have the powers of telling us this, we must investigate. So it's all the semantics which I was talking about earlier, which end up making the office being a bit of a lack of a better word, useless in terms of the things that are there. The natural thing that would happen if you and I were to find something which is untoward is to go to a law enforcement agency and do a follow-up in terms of what have you done. Now, from the side of the public protector, nothing is there. Now, that's one of the new roles in which I think the current public protector will need to focus on in terms of saying, how can we develop the current tools that we have to make sure that we are more effective?
All right, I want to talk about innovative ways in terms of communication with the ordinary people, but I would just want to take Lesedi. Lesedi, your take on the conversation.
Thank you very much, Blain. I think to echo the sentiments that have already been shared, particularly by Tebogo and Mpumelelo, on the issue of the disconnect between the Office of the Public Protector and the public at large, or rather the perception that it is a purportedly independent institution which seems to be failing in its mandate. We cannot neglect in a conversation such as this the role played by the National Assembly itself. I mean, with reference to comments by Glenys Breitenbach to the fact or rather insinuating that Advocate Zikalala slept away to the top, or however you'd want to put it. Such comments, and I think even the absence of certain political parties at the proceedings at the National Assembly and the DA's walkout, to me demonstrate an abdication of responsibility from the mandate given to these parties and representatives of the electorate who've been put in the positions that they've been put into.
Yeah.
So I do think that that role should also not be discounted, that yes, on the one hand, there's the lack of confidence or trust from the public side. But on the other hand, and perhaps to the defense of the institution, there are certain elements and forces within the separate arms of government itself which also should be held to account. The case in point being statements made by the DA representative, Ms. Lenz Breitenbach.
Well, let's tell you more about what the DA's Glenys Breitenbach says with regards to this. She said the appointment process of the public protector needs to be re-evaluated. She said not one of the candidates, in their view, met all the minimum standards. And Nosipa, what did you make of the selection process?
Thank you so much. The Office of the Public Protector is a very high and important position. And with the appointment of the new Public Protector Advocate Zikalala, there's some controversies that came with that. And the two issues that played there. The first relating to the questioning of her competence as a fit and proper person and ethical conduct. The second issue relating to the role played by the ruling party in perpetuating this outcome. And with the first issue, I would like to point out how there's a high standard placed upon the public protector, essentially because of the duties and responsibilities bestowed upon them, which is investigate complaints, allegations of improper conduct and maladministration. Therefore, a person seeking to hold that office should comply with Section 193(1)(b) of the Constitution and Section 181(2) and 3 of the Constitution. Every former public protector seeking to hold that office has been scrutinized on the same standards, which is ethical conduct, impartiality, effectiveness, integrity, and independence. However, in the last few years, we've seen a compromise of the independence and integrity standard of the Office of the Public Protector, and the recent appointment of Advocate Zikalala further demonstrate how this element of independence and integrity has been diluted. We see with the ruling party and its majoritarian power, along with the supporters, influencing how the decision of the National Assembly goes about in appointing her or recommending her, and therefore it further contributed to the tarnishing of the reputation of the public protector as already as it stands. So for the public as it stands, we are not convinced that the public protector was impartially appointed. Okay.
Tebogo, Khaas, do you see room to reevaluate in terms of the selection process?
There may very well be, and maybe before I even deal with that directly, my colleague Nosipo, I think she's raised two issues which I believe at least one is I disagree sharply with regards to the integrity, the impugned lack of integrity on the incoming public protector, and she hasn't offered any cogent reason why that would be the case. Over time, yes, it might very well be there's an erosion of trust and there's erosion of conduct, how the incumbents have, the recent incumbent had comported herself, and that should not have a bearing on the incoming person, because she hasn't even signed anything in her role as a public protector, save for when she's an acting public protector. But to now say, already lump her or describe as somebody who might be ethically unmoored might very well be, unfair as far as I am concerned. In fact, the funny thing is, we've got an ex-public protector who has been found unfit for her job, now in Parliament. And she might be sitting in a committee to adjudicate on the appointment of the next public protector. You tell me how erosion of public trust could it be, but what the legislature has given us today, because certainly, all the bars have no longer lowered. They're actually on the ground in terms of when you talk about ethical conduct and especially how the legislators themselves have been comporting themselves. And I'm not the one to always want to negatively judge somebody based on things that haven't been justified or proven, because all that you hear is hearsay. Will those allegations be meant be uttered or repeated outside Parliament where there's parliamentary privilege protection? No, they wouldn't, because somebody knows that they'll have to, and Mpumelelo can weigh in on this one, they'll have to be tested, and they might actually face consequences over such utterances if they are wrong or they're incorrect or false or malicious, which is what it is, because it is very much, often the case that we expect of others that which we, and here I'm talking about the legislatures, don't seem to be able to give the public, because the conduct of the legislature itself, it's the worst that you could ever found. Yes, it's entertaining. It's more entertaining than some of the soapies, I believe. But it is the substance. There's no substance in terms of the deliberations. Look at other legislatures in other jurisdictions globally. You see how they comport themselves.
Right.
You'd be, even on difficult matters, you find that, people are able to focus on the issues at hand and separate the wheat from the chaff.
Right.
And we are not getting that. And we're expecting already on somebody who's not yet assumed office, based on spurious allegations, based on untested allegations, based on hearsay, that we hear people talking behind closed doors. They know that they cannot be prosecuted.
And we're coming up to a crucial election. And I wonder the dangers of using the office of the public protector as a political football in the lead up to the elections. We want to talk about that when we come back. We're going to go back to our digital audience as well. Important issues. It's an education that all of us are getting with regards to the office of the public protector. We know the drama, we know the scandals, etc., but we need to know what this office is all about and how it can serve me and you. More next. Thanks for sticking around. You're watching It's Topical. Important question that we're asking you. Do you think the Office of the Public Protector sufficiently represents you, your family, your community? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. We've asked you to send in your voice notes and your videos. This is what you had to say. Take a look.
In my opinion, I think the Office of the Public Protector doesn't represent the general public. Because at the end of the day, what we see, it's always in favor of a political party.
20 million to investigate, but guess what? Where's the guilty party? Where's the lost money? Where's the corruption?
I think South Africa and the public office is doing the best it can to actually pick up South Africa from the havoc it's actually facing. I mean, more and more potential investors are coming into the country to actually make this country a beautiful one. I just think that us as the people, we are the people that need to change our mindset in order for us to go.
The Office of the Public Protector represents the general public. The only issue that needs to be addressed is the leadership problem, because people who are appointed, sometimes they lack the capacity and the capability to lead that office.
All right, we really appreciate your thoughts on this matter. Let's take it to our digital audience, continue the conversation. Tebogo, if you can unmute, let's get your take whether or not you think the public protector or the office of the public protector sufficiently represents you and sufficiently adequately addresses the issues in your community. If you can unmute Tebogo. There we go. It seems that we're having a bit of an issue with Tebogo. Gustav, let's... Okay, there we go. Hold on, Gustav. Go ahead, Tebogo.
Greetings to you and the people of South Africa at large. Look, inherently in human nature, bias is always there. You cannot run away from it, but impartiality is really an ideal that we seek to achieve. It's just at the ceiling there. However, I think I should say that the Parliament of South Africa is a reflection of the people of South Africa, the type of a nation that we are. And the person or an individual that we install in the public protector office, which is our office, reflection of our own decisions and the type of people we are as a country. But as far as our current government is concerned, I do not really think that it's a good reflection of what we seek to achieve as a nation. So I do not necessarily think that the Office of the Public Protector does enough.
Right.
And in saying so, I'm saying I do not think that as the people of South Africa are doing enough to advance our interests, because that office or that office is a reflection of ourselves. So we're not doing enough.
Your line not too good there, Tebogo, but what I picked up in terms of the interaction between the Public Protector's Office as well as ordinary citizens, Mpumelelo, that's important, is it? The accessibility of the Office of the Public Protector to anyone, be it from a rural area to an urban area. Do you think there needs to be new and innovative ways in order to make this communication much more better?
Definitely. In fact, it starts with making sure that if I have a complaint and I'm from Johannesburg, Durban, Kamalake, or Nongoma, it's the same level of access in which I'm going to have. Even the same level of the type of language in which I'm going to be addressed in. So it starts with the education in terms of saying, let's educate the members of the public as to what the office is about. Let's educate as to how processes and complaints are handled. If there are any delays which are going to be there, please tell us what the delays are going to be about. When the report comes through, let's look at that particular report and say, let's look at the methodology which was followed. Now, in the assessment of the performance of the public protector, let's take Advocate Mkhwebane, for instance. Let's look at how many reports that she was able to complete and how many of those reports were actually taken to court. And then maybe you can start to assess the level of success of the office of her tenure while she was there. Only taking a select few of those cases that have gone to court and the type of comments that have come from our justices, which in certain instances may be a bit problematic. If you look at my earlier submission of a superhuman public protector, then you can come back and say, maybe she's done quite a good job. But if you're going to paint her and paint the whole office as if it's not working, that's where we're going to start. We have a problem and erode the good brand which the Office of the Public Protector is starting to have. It has been from an office which was basically none or not attended to an office that has received much attention, that has been able to tell even the president of the country what to do and what not to do, and even our ministers. So in terms of the power of that office, it has certainly developed over time. And it's going to innovate as it goes along, because even the maladministration is not standing still. It's also developing in its own right. So we need innovative ways in order to fight it.
Lesedi, you have your hand up. Jump in.
Apologies, I was muted. Thank you very much, Blain. I think just to echo the sentiments that were shared by Tebogo and Mpumelelo, I definitely do agree that we need to be more innovative in the systems that we put in place in terms of bridging that disconnect between the public and the Office of the Public Protector. However, maybe a factor that ought to be considered, or rather issue that ought to be considered, which plagues not only the Office of the Public Protector, but perhaps the operation of the law and the Constitution, broadly speaking, is the fact that open access to justice, at least insofar as the law is concerned, is not an absolute right. So following the example given by Mpumelelo, say we're dealing with reports from the Office of the Public Protector and their concerns from the public, such as the case of the Pala report, that certain details or information has not been disclosed or made publicly available. Such a reality will perhaps have to be countenanced by the fact that out of interest for, say, for example, national security, or information that might not necessarily be the best to divulge to the public, then certain forms of information might perhaps be withheld on considerations of national security, for example. So I do think, while I agree with my colleagues and the points that they raise on the issue of accessibility and transparency as a way of bridging the disconnect between the institution and the public that it's meant to serve, we must also bear in mind that the notion of open justice or access to justice is in and of itself not an absolute right in respect of institutions of this nature.
Important point. Interesting point. Kustas, you agree, disagree?
Yes, Blain, I do agree very much. However, I just want us to look at the credibility of that parliament. Now, the reason we got such a low trust or faith in that office is because we do know that when the deployees of the African National are employing someone, they just somehow are unable to appoint the best for the job. particularly those who will hold them accountable. Now, even before Kollega Galega started, we already know that she probably will be ANC protector as opposed to be the public protector, simply because the employees of the African National Congress cannot put you there. If you are excellent, you are good, you are a top creme de la creme. They just do not do that. So we won't be surprised if she turns out to be an ANC protector, because it is in their DNA not to do the best that they can. So as I'm looking at it right now, she's probably going to be an ANC protector, protect the government at all costs, simply because that's what the ANC does. And no one can dispute what I just said. That's my comment there.
Well, I'm sure the ANC will dispute what you just said. Tebogo, your take on that?
Yes, certainly. You know, so many interesting points have been fleshed out, and Lisedi, I couldn't agree more with what you've said. But let us look at it this way. Do you know how the office or the office bearer has been appointed? Is also tainted by how our constitutional order, I'm talking about the National Assembly, is constituted, because none of those people sitting in the National Assembly are representative of us. They are just being seconded just for political patronage and all that. I don't even know who my MP is where I live. So I can call them to order and say, but why did you walk out, or why did you vote this way and not that way? So we are left to be at the whims of the. I hear some echo. I don't know if somebody can.
Apologies. We'll try to get that sorted out.
Yeah.
Yes. Complete your thought.
You know, and therefore we are always bound to have an outcome of a decision that is party political driven. We have the whippery that will say you vote this way whether you like it or not. Otherwise, you won't have a job anymore. Well, we've seen what the EFF has done. Just laid on 62 people, made 62 people unemployed because they didn't manage to get passes to an event or something like that. So people are really acting to preserve their own livelihood. But more importantly, we must guard against the. What's going on?
Oops, I think
I don't know if it's on my side but it's certainly not on my side.
I would double check with the technical. Let me hand you back to technical. Before I go, this point is important. We must guard against the abuse of the office of the public protector by political players, who want to go and litigate their own political and legal matters before the office of the public protector, and thus by burdening it with matters that perhaps better belong to courts than seizing her with matters that is drag on and deplete the limited budget that she has, which could be easily and most importantly applied to areas where it is its impact could be better served. All right. I'm just told that if digital audience can just mute themselves when they're not speaking, I think that's a part of the interference that Mr. Khaas is picking up. And Mpumelelo, just to pick up where Tebogo Khaas left off with regards to, in the lead up to an election like this, important. Tensions are high, emotions are high. How important or how dangerous would it be for the public as well as political parties, and I'm talking general now, to use this office as a political football?
It's very dangerous. Firstly, you are taking, as the previous speaker stated, very limited resources and using them for something which is not for the benefit of the public. Secondly, you are trying to change whatever political party using the government machinery, which is meant to serve any other purpose rather than that. And then thirdly, you then deplete the confidence which is supposed to be held by members of the public within that particular office. It is not meant to settle personal scores or political scores. It is simply to be there to protect us as members of the public. I think we must then go back and say, do we have individuals that go to Parliament that understand what is it that they need to go and do in Parliament? Do they then understand the type of questions which must be asked? So if you stand up and you want to say something which is very bad about a certain individual, is it pertaining to their office that they need to occupy, their needs or the skills that are not there that you've identified, or are you now hitting below the belt in terms of the type of comments that are there, and in being able to hold individuals accountable? I always say this. You can't take me as a legal practitioner and say I must go and supervise doctors which are performing in theatre. I don't even know the type of instruments that they use. So if they do something which is incorrect, I'm not going to be able to call them to order. So I think it's also up to us as members of the public to say to even the political parties that are there, because we vote in the political parties that are there. The ANC is the majority in parliament, not because they wanted to engineer it on their own. It's the members of the public that said, we trust you. So as we trust you, go and take decisions on our behalf. So if we have a problem with that, come back to that ruling party and say to them, we are doing things which are not supposed to be done. How can this particular process be fixed? So if we identify the problem and also change the legislation, because another thing that we're doing, we're giving the public protector activities and duties to do, and yet the legislation hasn't changed since the office was incepted. So there's no development to take care of all the new innovative improprieties that are now taking place. So we have all tools which are not going to suffice when you need to deal with the improper administration.
Tebogo, you have your hand up. Weigh in.
Yes, I have. I want to address the main point, but preliminary to that is the issue of politics. That is why I was thinking that perhaps there is a need for educational qualifications before people can go and enter into parliament. But it is really upon ourselves as the people of South Africa to make quite informed decisions going to next year. But the point I wanted to echo sentiment in relation to is the issue of judging the person even before they occupy office. I think it's important to observe the principle of Audi Alderam Party. That really let us give her an opportunity to present herself so that we can judge her after she has presented herself. We can justify for.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Nosipho, I just want to see where your head and your heart is regarding the difference between the office of the public protector and the individual. How much weight do you put on the individual as opposed to the office, or vice versa?
I don't think it can be separated because of the level of standard, as I had mentioned earlier, that the office requires. And one of the things that I wanted to also touch on is my colleagues had raised the issue of transparency. In order for us to build a breach of that eliminates the anxieties that the public currently faces, is that whenever the allegations placed upon somebody who's supposed to be a newly appointed public protector, there should be a committee that ensures that all those allegations are then brought forward and then they defend themselves, as my colleague has stated. And then that element of, okay, they're not guilty, therefore they're innocent, we can proceed to then be recommended to the president. But as it stands right now, cannot separate the public protector from the office. The one person, they represent the public of South Africa. The standard is way too high for us to separate that.
Tebogo, Khaas, do you agree? If you can unmute, Mr. Khaas. There you go.
Yes, thank you. To a great deal, I do agree with Nosipho. I think that's a valid point. We know the conduct. I'm hearing myself again, somebody.
Apologies. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. The conduct of the office bearer and her character has a lot of bearing on the office itself, because it's not a case of do as I say and not as I do, because you must actually act in a manner that is expected of the office. So the two, in that regard, they are intertwined. There's no delineation insofar as that is concerned. But the point I'm also want to stress is, with lest I sound like I hold a brief for any public protector or the incoming one. Let us not judge people for things that they haven't done yet. And if there's things that they've done, we've availed ourselves of the avenues to adjudicate or to deal with our disapproval, and we didn't use them or we don't elect to use them, then let's not blame anybody. Let's just sit back and allow to do a job. But on that score also, we must please be mindful of the fact that there are hundreds, as Mpumelelo said earlier, there are hundreds of matters that the public protector has been seized with through their reports. We are just being selective in terms of which ones we want to highlight and dwell on and amplify, only because there's political gravity or around them. But we fail to appreciate the other cases where they're dealing, and we're spending so much time on matters that we ought not to be. And it is also reflective of the standard the moral standard that society has set itself on, that we want to piggyback on those things that will give you clickbaits. I'm talking about the media also.
Right.
Clickbaits or instant fame or whatever it is.
No, we'll take it. Fair enough. Mpumelelo, last word to you, sir. Look, I understand the powers of the public protector is to investigate, but do you think there's room for it to be more proactive?
Definitely. In fact, without sounding as if the public protector is going to go in each municipality and each department, at least the door should be opened for a much more flexible, anonymous tip-off or anonymous complaint type of process, in which before I even have the power to go in and investigate, just a mere message which comes in through my inbox will allow me as a public protector to go and check whatever is happening within the particular municipality. Whether it's credible or not, whether they have the funds to do that, or even invest in the investigative resources is something else, and that will need to be debated at another time. But I do think that the particular process in terms of the powers of the public protector needs to be there. But linked to that is that of transparency that we've been talking about since we've started. Now, transparency in this process is twofold. Firstly, whenever the shortlisting process is taking place, allow me as a member of the public to listen into those conversations. I want to know, why did we leave other candidates and only take others? When the time comes to deliberate, after the interviews have been done and dusted, I want to listen in. Why are you taking that particular individuals compared to the others? Right. And then lastly, when we're going to vote in Parliament, let's make it a secret vote and not a herd mentality type of voting, so that we can be able to hold individuals accountable if there's anything were to go wrong at a later stage.
Right. Mr. Zikalala, Mr. Khaas, appreciate your time, appreciate your perspective. To the digital audience, value added indeed, no doubt. Thank you very much indeed. Instructive, as always. All right, before we go, here's my take. Investigating, reporting on, and remedying alleged or suspected improper conduct in state affairs. It's a huge mission, right? But this is what it boils down to for me. Effective and trusted. It's two words that are part of the Office of the Public Protector's visions. Two words that further strengthen and support a constitutional democracy. It's two words that allows the office to remedy administrative injustices and to promote good governance in state affairs. And two words that the office bearer needs to take to heart or face serious consequences. Effectiveness and being trusted. And bias only in favor of justice and integrity. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube. Sports Live up next. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.